welcome to this second webinar of Carbon Lab 10th anniversary celebration. So we have recently completed our 10 years in IIT Hyderabad, and it's our great pleasure to have today with us Professor Seeram Ramakrishna from NUS and Dr. Nisa Salim from Swinburne University of Technology, Australia. So as we know that on the occasion of 10th year celebration, we have started this webinar series. First webinar was arranged on 20th December in the field of energy storage devices and carbon nanomaterials. And this is the second webinar in the series on nanofibers. So as I mentioned, today we have our distinguished speakers. And before we go to the talks today, we have a small presentation on the Carbon Lab contribution in the area of nanofibers. So let me just play that presentation. So let me share the screen. So with this brief introduction of Carbon Lab, I now hand over the proceeding to my students, Akansha and Poonam, to proceed further.
Our first eminent speaker is a pioneer in the field of nanofibers and does not need an introduction. However, for the sake of formality, it's my leisure to read his short bio. Professor Seeram Ramakrishna is the Director of Center for Nanotechnology and Sustainability and is among the top 3 impactful authors at the National University of Singapore. Listed among the top 3 scientists of the world in biomedical engineering as per the Stanford University Researchers Study on Career-Long Impact of Researchers. Thomson Reuters identified him among the world's most influential scientific minds. His Google Scholar citations are around 1,15,000 and Edge Index is around 160, something really extraordinary. Clarivate Analytics recognized him among the top 1% highly cited researchers in the world in material science and cross-field categories. Professor Ramakrishna received PhD from the University of Cambridge, UK. He is an elected fellow of UK Royal Academy of Engineering, Singapore Academy of Engineering, Indian National Academy of Engineering, and ASEAN Academy of Engineering and Technology. He is also an elected fellow of American Association of the Advancement of Science, ASM International, American Society for Mechanical Engineers, American Institute for Medical and Biological Engineering, Institution for Mechanical Engineers, IMechE, and Institution of Materials, Minerals and Mining, IOM3 UK, ISTE India, and International Union of Biomaterial Science and Engineering. He has co-authored several books and is on the editorial board of several international journals. He is regarded as the guru of electrospinning and nanofibers for diverse applications. He is also pioneering the intelligent biomaterials. Let us all welcome Professor Ramakrishna.
Thank you, Akansha, for your kind introduction, quite elaborate and detailed. And once again, thank you so much. Well, let me begin by congratulating Dr. Chandra, whom I have known for nearly 10 years. He has been doing wonders at IIT Hyderabad, and I get routine alerts about his progress every few months. So I like to say that I wish him stronger, much more success in the years ahead, and hope to see that Dr. Chandra, all his team members, build on this progress, which is very solid for the last 10 years. Was presented briefly in the beginning of this seminar. I'm very sure that in the next 10, 20, 30 years, you can make a much more impactful, game-changing contributions. On your 10th anniversary, I'd like to join others and congratulating you. You're doing well, and we wish you to do even more well. Perhaps no sleep, work even harder. Okay, so the topic I chose today is future healthcare technologies, intelligent materials and systems. As was just briefly introduced by Dr. Chandra's team member, electrospun nanofibers have a wide variety of applications. We have been investigating them for the past 25 years. Every year I come across much more innovative, better ideas from other researchers. So to cover every aspect of electrospun nanofibers would be challenging in 30 minutes given to me. So I intentionally chose a far-sighted concept, what we can do using electrospun materials. Let us begin. I think today I'm here in Singapore, you're all in Hyderabad, and there are participants from all over the world tuning into this webinar. It is possible because we have a technology which are helping people to connect despite the social distancing and horrific effects on human health. You could see here today close to 2 million deaths and more than 100 million people got affected due to COVID-19. So this clearly brings the point, human health and wellness are impacted by infectious diseases. The history of humanity clearly suggests we have several episodes of such infectious diseases. Moving forward, there would be many more. So infectious diseases will continue to be an important topic for the scientific community as well as the humanity. There is research going on in terms of electrospun materials for viral, antiviral face masks in our own laboratory. But I would not be covering that in this presentation because I'm focusing on intelligent materials. And infectious diseases, even though they are big in terms of the impact, there are other things that are equally impacting human life. There are general injury and disabilities, lifestyle diseases like diabetes, genetic disorders, aging, and mental stress, which is becoming an important topic. So with that backdrop, I'm going to say that these are the variety of disorders. There's a book on left side we just authored. It got published just this month. It captures lots of details, but an essential point here is diseases, disorders, disabilities are associated with every tissue and organ of the human body. And then aging, here is a simple illustration of aging on bone density, and that varies between male and female, and also how it changes with age. You notice at the sweet spot of 20 to 40 years, bone density seems to be the highest. So here I chose myself as a test personality and look at using a simulated software how I might look in the future. No doubt I look like that on the left side. You all agree, of course. And on the right side is a simulated one how my skin will look like. But beneath the skin, which is the surface, you would see we have a variety of tissues and organs. And how do they age? What are the changes and noticeable things we can observe? Of course, you can understand this from observing, talking to the family members, other senior people in your own family. The important point here is between males and females, there tend to be different kinds of aging. So the medicines that have been developed with the men in mind need to be redeveloped so that the other half of the population also can get the benefit. So in addition to the gender, genetics plays an important role, lifestyle, and a climate. So I will not go through all these details, but that's meant for the future talks. If Akansha still decides to invite me in the future, I will give those talks. So with all the diseases and disabilities, last 50 years, between 1950 to 2000, a variety of medical devices have been designed and used. And then last 20 years, where we're also deeply involved, topics like tissue engineering, regenerative medicine, nanomedicine, stem cells, diagnostics, and bioprinting. The main purpose of these technologies and R&D is to regenerate diseased or affected tissues and organs. And of course, you already see some of the luxury skin care brands. This is a friend of mine, a German, Augustin Bader. He just launched a skin cell-based skin products. I'm not marketing his product, but I wanted to show you that research like that sometimes will have other wellness implications. Now, central topic of my presentation is, so what is the future? So the future of biomaterials, I tend to believe, would be intelligent biomaterials. That would be the focus for the future next 30 years. And I take the confidence in saying this from observing the nature. You are all familiar with touch me not plant, and that's a basic, simple illustration of certain level of intelligence in the plants. There are books now emerging, as well as scientific evidences are coming, which talks about other living beings having a certain level of intelligence. So for the sake of our seminar and for the benefit of all the researchers, we recently published a paper which defines what are intelligent materials. So within intelligent materials, we define intelligent biomaterials are capable of processing external and internal signals in order to take actions that maximize the chance of successfully achieving the goals. It's a very broad working definition. If you use that and now start looking at biomaterials, you would be totally surprised what is possible in the years ahead. So to make this point, why do we even need these intelligent biomaterials? I want to show you this slide, something about intelligence, how it changes with age. So I paused a moment because I really wanted you to pay attention that intelligence apparently is a function of age. And many of you are in the right age profile. I would imagine you are in 20s to 30s. That is a peak of your intelligence performance. I'm sure that this is an opportune time for you to contribute and surprise the world community by your innovative research. Also, I like to make that in a much more simplified way. If we had to call that intellectual efficiency, this is a middle band where intellectual efficiency seems to be at the peak. And after that, once a person passes the middle age, there is a certain level of compromise in the intellectual efficiency. So in addition to that, there is another issue is the mental stress. COVID-19 clearly made the point that air, water, and food are essential. In addition to that, humans need social interactions. Otherwise, isolation, social distancing is causing them mental stress. And on the right side, you actually have a small illustration. If you are unstressed, you have a better control of your thoughts and emotions. When you are stressed, you have a less control on your thoughts and emotions. To look at these thoughts, which are a source of your stress, roughly there are 6,000 thoughts per day that goes through your head. And in other words, it's about 4 thoughts per minute. They are number of thoughts in a minute. So as I speak and as you listen to me, in your mind, several thoughts are crossing. So interesting thing, 70% or to 80% of them have a negative content. More than 90% are actually repetitive, like the thoughts you had yesterday or last week. So the good news is, if you know what is thoughts and how you can manage them, you would be able to somewhat alleviate your mental stress. So here is the much more deeper scientific approach, where in the center I have thoughts and emotions, and they are shaped by a number of variables. And we don't have time to go through each and every one variable, but I like to say that thinking and intention, you could use as your tool to control your thoughts and emotions. In a way, you are able to change your mind. So in the future, next 30 years, humans will have access to refined devices, systems, and methods to perceive own thoughts and redesign own mind. It's a big statement, but this is a futuristic talk. So it is meant for inspiring future researchers like all of you to think about what can you do and make a difference to the humanity. So here are the glimpses. AI, artificial intelligence, neural interfaces. I will be giving you some more details, quantum chips, quantum biology, psychedelics, wearables. I'm going to give you some more examples on that, on augmented brain. So lots of research is happening. And with these advances, there is a potential to redesign own mind in the future. So right next to me, you have a Sophia robot, which can emulate close to 20% of our current human abilities. So by 2050, I think there would be much more seamless integration of living tissues and organs with the engineered systems and digital technologies. So let me give you two examples. One is invasive applications, other one is a non-invasive applications. Invasive means involving, or that means they're, they're inside the body. So at the basics, this is how the neurons and then biochemicals that underpin our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. So here is an illustration how neurons from external surfaces, for example, fingertips, how they're connected to the brain through the spinal cord and the mechanism of action because of these neuronal actions and the biochemistry associated with them. We are able to sense, we are able to react, we are able to perform certain actions. So that's a typical human brain of a person holding in hands. You can see it. And the point here is now we are able to design these neural interfaces. One of my PhD students, she is Chen Wang, she just completed her thesis in this topic. Here you see a number of neural electrodes that are designed to interface with hundreds of billions of neurons and trillions of junctions, what we call synapses they form in our body. So these neural interfaces are meant to interface with these neuronal bundles and tap the signals so that we understand how the neurons are communicating, what precisely they are communicating. So, and there are issues, for example, interface between biomaterial and the neurons. And then we use advanced nanomaterials like carbon nanotubes, graphene, PDOTs, many other material systems. And we nano-engineer the surface so that the neural interface is much more good. Here is an example how impedance is reduced by 50 folds at 1 kilohertz using a combination of PDOT and CNT nanotube, which is actually electrospun. So these are meant to guide the neurons to get into these electrospun tubes, and then interfaces are modulated so that we have a better signal to noise ratio. So these are the results, but I won't go through the results because of the time. So these are just to give you the convincing how this experiment is done. And this is done in the animal studies. And we actually recorded the signals, and we have shown how we can see the response of the animal for different conditions. And then that shows hot and cold and different stressful conditions. And then we can reverse this to deal with the neurodegeneration that happens with the aging process, and we call the neurogenesis process, enhanced by autophagy signaling by the neurons. So these are all published work. You can check at the cited papers. So the main message here is such neural interfaces will further enhance a number of medical devices that are already in use for health and well-being of human beings. So in the future, as I said, there will be much more seamless integration. And for you to believe, I want to give a real-life example. This is Elon Musk, who is more than $100 billion wealth person. He is behind Tesla car, as well as a SpaceX program. He also has a company called Neuralink, which designs the neural interfaces to tap the signals, modulate the signals, with the purpose of treating people with Alzheimer's, dementia, as well as depression. So when you have such a deep-pocketed people supporting this direction, as well as investing resources, I'm very sure with the talented scientists that are listening to this seminar, there would be much more progress, so that we will have a much more advanced systems that helps us to understand our own mind and brain in the future. Now I'm going to switch to non-invasive approach. So far I have shown you an invasive approach, here a non-invasive. That means we're not actually going inside the tissues and organs of the human body, but we're actually on the outside. So a number of wearable devices are already in the market. Fitbit is one good example, which people are already using. So here, electrospun nanofibers have been made into wearable devices. In this case, for example, a ring that wraps around the fingers. That can be used for measuring or monitoring heart rate, body temperature, respiration rate, glucose levels in the breath, as well as the body motion. So these are all possible. And when you have such an advancement, we can move away from centralized healthcare monitoring to a personalized remote healthcare monitoring. And you already see the evidence of this in COVID-19 situation, where the patients are isolated, but their vital signs are monitored 7/24 hours for the action by the medical doctors as well as the local communities to keep everybody safe at the same time to treat the patient. So here is a classical example of wearables, initial glimpse, what progress is possible and why they are needed. And here I'm convincing you to show by showing a variety of electrospun materials, different material systems, in this case PVDF, PDMS, as well as many other materials that have been electrospun successfully. These are different mechanisms we can use to leverage high surface area, small dimension nanofibers of a particular materials and harness particular sensing ability using their basic concepts like piezoelectricity, capacitance change, piezoresistivity, as well as contact resistance. There are many other aspects we can leverage by having these materials converted into electrospun nanofibers and building devices from them. So here is the results. You can see these devices successfully used for measuring the heart rate, also glucose level from the breath, and respiration rates, temperature monitoring, and body motion. Later on, you can use the similar concepts, electrospun nanofibers, integrate that into textiles, and then you can generate necessary energy to run these devices. So I'm giving an illustration that you can make a self-powering devices so that you do not need an additional battery. And imagine in the future, if you have these devices powering implants, for example, pacemakers, which tend to be deployed inside the body for anywhere 5 to 10 years. After that, a person need to go for a revision surgery so that pacemakers of the heart and brain can be replaced for the new batteries. So in the future, if we have wearables which can self-generate and do not need a complex battery systems, we have a better and improved quality of life. So here is a few more examples of flexible electrospun silk-based wearable system, and more examples of electronic skin that is made out of this one. And this is similar how that has been used in analyzing for the case of diabetes from the breath. And here is for the medical bandage. Just now the first presenter talked about wound dressings. One of the problem with the wound dressing is the bacterial infection. Second one is the doctors would not know unless they peel off the dressing to know what is the relative healing rate of the diabetic wound. If you have a future smart wound dressing that can give out the information about the microbial community. At the same time, it also can give out the information about the wound healing. It is enormously helpful to the doctors as well as the patients. So recently, we just published a paper. It came out today, where we have electrospun systems using a perovskite material that can be used for harnessing sunlight and produce energy that is needed to run these devices. Again, I like to give you one good example about this wearable technology. Just now, Google announced they're going to buy Fitbit with a $2 billion. So what that means is, again, wearables also seeing a massive injection of funds by the entrepreneurs. There are lots of researchers in the world pushing in the direction of wearables. Many of these wearables right now, they're not really flexible, they're not breathable, but moving forward with electrospun materials as well as other fibrous structures and geometries, future wearables would be much more comfortable and much more desirable by the human beings. So in conclusion, all I like to say is I predict intelligent biomaterials will further enhance the healthcare outcomes of the human beings and well-being. So if you are looking to contribute in this direction, there's a lot of areas still require intense research. I hope you'll have a fruitful time doing that research. So to give a graphical illustration, so far we've been focusing on health, and wellness is becoming extremely important, and intelligent materials and systems will play a very significant role in the coming 10, 20, 30 years. Well, this is what the mural at a university, I gave a lecture, a French university yesterday. There is a mural which talks about the future of life 2050, and you can see there is a Taj Mahal behind me, and then Eiffel Tower there, and then lots of other stuff there, and this right in front of me is Singapore, and so that's Malaysia and whatnot. So I think they think the world will be covered by snow, but I'm not so sure about that. But I'm sure we'll have much more interesting intelligent systems, and then you'll have a wonderful future life. With that, I'd like to say thank you so much for the opportunity, and I hope there is some level of interest in what I said, and I hope all of you can change the future by continuing your passion the way you are doing. Again, I like to congratulate Dr. Chandra for his passion, never-ending, no-sleeping drive to run the Carbon Lab at IIT Hyderabad. I hope you will continue to do that for the next 20, 30 years. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Ramakrishna, for such an interesting and insightful talk. We hope all the viewers will contribute actively in this research area, as most of us are at the peak of our intelligence. So again, I would like to request all the viewers to post their questions in the YouTube chat box. We will take them at the end of the webinar.
So now we'll take the viewers' questions one by one, and we'll try our best to pick up the maximum questions allowed in the available time frame. So the first question is for Professor Ramakrishna. It's by Mr. Alok Srivastava. He asked, can you provide some more information on the mechanism of self-powered variables which are being explored and which will be useful for onboard power generation?
Thank you, Alok. I hope you can hear me. The concept of self-power generation has several mechanisms. If we use, let's say, a motion, you can arrange two surfaces which would respond piezoelectricity, and then you design the device to a level that produces the voltage to the level you need, as well as the amperage or the total power. The question is that the only mechanism? No, there are many different concepts are there. The whole idea is, don't imagine it is powering a large building. It is not. It is mostly powering small devices that would not require external power source. Second one, where the weight is an important issue. So to repeat again, the energy can be generated or harvested by different concepts. Could be relative motion, friction, change in the dimension, or change in the morphology, change in the electrical conductivity. So we use different concepts, depending on the material we're going to select, depending on the application. Then you build a device and produce the energy generation. You can also extend this for thermal management. So if you design it such a way, you could also remove the heat away from the body. Should you design as a system, or you can also warm the body. So the wearables research is going in that direction.
Thank you, sir. I hope it answers the question by Mr. Alok. I have one question for Dr. Nisa regarding the collagen nanofibers. Could you just elaborate a little on the electrospinning of the collagen fibers, and what is the benefit of carbonized collagen nanofibers over the carbonized polymeric nanofibers?
Okay, so thank you for the question. First of all, I'd like to highlight that we haven't made collagen nanofibers, but we made collagen macrofibers, because our idea was to make carbon fibers. So there's a difference between carbon nanofibers and carbon fibers. I think you might have seen my presentation. Yes. So the carbon fibers, when we say we are aiming at between 6 to 7 micron size. And we haven't tried electrospinning mainly because collagen is a protein, and we know that by applying the electric, the power, we will be denaturing the protein. So that's why we come up with the wet spinning process, wet spinning approach. So what we did is we extracted collagen from chicken feet, and we use that solution for wet spinning process. So wet spinning, when I say, this is like we are extruding we are converting that polymer solution into a solid fiber mat, and we are extruding that into a solvent. So that is the difference. We are not applying any electric power or anything, and that's the way we can preserve the protein, especially the helical features of the collagen. So the idea was that we wanted to use these wet spun collagen fibers for two different applications. So one is for the biological applications, and the other was we were curious to see what will happen or how much carbon we can preserve while we heat this protein material. And surprisingly, we find that we actually find some of carbon material. Probably Professor Seeram might know that the problem with the collagen is the thermal stability is very low. But in this wet spinning approach, we could actually maintain, but we have used some cross-linking to enhance the thermal stability of collagen. But we were very surprised to see, or we were very curious to look at the final porous carbon fibers features that actually coming from a very low price animal byproduct material.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can I just say something to support Nisa? Okay. So, I think her thinking is, I'm not sure whether she worked with Mino Nabe at Dakin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She also works. She's my collaborator too. The point is, what you guys doing is excellent. The work, and one of the important issues is sustainability. And worldwide, right now, the materials generated carbon emissions is close to 20% of the total carbon emissions by the human activities. So the carbon emissions from the materials, a wide variety of materials, is an issue. And carbon fibers traditionally has a lot of energy intensity, and moving away from any traditional approach our conventional approach towards bio-based materials like collagen, what she said, it could be cellulose or something else. I think it's a fundamental shift in trying to reduce the carbon footprint. And I think with that, we all know that, Dr. Chandra would not choose a laboratory or a center named carbon unless he thinks that is very important, right? He's a very smart guy. So I think I agree, because carbon has so many applications. It's enormous. And for example, I give an example. There is now biggest issue with the water pollution that requires you to remove endocrines, and the carbon plays a very important role. And that is a big deal for the continuity of the human population. Otherwise, the human population becoming sterile. So Singapore and Switzerland, they already fitted water treatment plants with carbon filters. I'm just giving an example. So now imagine NISA makes the future carbon filter from biomass that is environmentally very friendly and nice. And I think that would solve at least an important issue, which is the unfriendly processes and material systems. Human beings got used to it for the last several hundred years. So moving forward, we need to go towards sustainable solutions, and I think that's where I believe what she's trying to do. It's a long answer. It's basically to support her.
Professor Sri, actually, I have a question to you.
Sure.
Because in your presentation,
by the way, is the panel members can ask each other the question? Is it allowed? Okay. Okay. You can ask.
Yeah, I am busy because while I'm presenting, I'm still thinking about, the intelligent biomaterials. See?
Okay.
I want to know, so in that context, so are you considering, or have you thought about to use bio-inspired or bringing nature-inspired designs or features into those materials? Or what is your, the thoughts on that area?
Yeah, you're right. Right now, the closest we could get there is we use the nature-inspired surfaces for antimicrobial modifications, but that's just a basic. And I think nature uses nano micro structural arrangements for it to be somewhat protective. The core message I actually understood about the life, I've just on the chat box, I'm messaging Dr. Chandra about life. The reason is, when you understand life, all living beings trying to survive. So the survival mechanism is already built into the living beings, all living beings. That includes plants as well as all other organisms. So how are they doing that decision? Well, the humans think they are the most smartest on the planet, right? But you actually find very rudimentary organisms also able to defend themselves. They morph, and primarily based on the structural arrangement. So they actually adopt their own structures to deal with the harmful their own surroundings. So I could give lots of examples, but they're not my work. But I read a lot of brilliant work by others. But I need more people like all these guys around in this webinar to do the work, because we only have 24 hours. We need more manpower, and there's plenty of ideas. But also we had to see where the funding, based on the research funding. So main point, what you're saying, which I agree, is that the microstructural arrangements at a different length scales would bring in a lot more self-generating intelligent behavior or response. And I think that we could use it. You could already see those in a 4D printing, where they talk about the structural rearrangement of a material, and then you make a 4D. Now they talk on 5D printing as well. So yes, I think there's a lot need to be understood. And there is one more thing, just to make everybody's life more interesting and complex. I use another term quantum concepts. So we haven't even added the quantum phenomena to the materials. And if we start adding the quantum concepts, and then if we can scale it up from angstrom level, sub-nano level to the micro and macro levels, if we can harness that, that would be brilliant. So we're constantly thinking about, it's a very difficult subject to understand quantum biology. And, but I think there is a lot of hope to pick up some of the ideas from quantum biology and other concepts and see whether we can build a system, material system, that can translate submicron, sub-nano functionalities or unique properties and behavior to the larger length scale. When we do that, I think we'll have even more material systems we never even imagined.
Yeah.
And of course, all these guys will get the Nobel Prize. That's the goal. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of final destination for these all efforts towards biomimicking the actual systems.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I believe that this fusion of multidisciplines is beginning to happen now. So if you look at the long history, I'm not here to tell the history of science, but if you look at it, let's say 500 years ago or before, you have few scientists, they almost dabble with all subjects. But the fast forward last 300 years, each subject became so big, and even within subjects, so many narrow disciplines, everybody became specialists. But the problem with that is we're unable to leverage a lot more knowledge that's there in other disciplines. So moving forward, I believe cross-disciplinary experts will emerge. So these are the guys, they like more than one subject. They somehow understand them, they put them together. And then they're able to design things much more interesting. So it's like somebody understands natural systems, and then he might be working on completely on a materials engineering or computer systems or interfaces. They might come up with something, performances, behaviors, and solutions we never even imagined. Yeah, I'm highly optimistic about those. Yeah.
But as per your slide, that's going to happen in the age of 30 to maximum 20 to 35.
Well, that's what I said, because after that I may not be around. So,
so that brings me one interest, because you have presented very nicely about this interesting fact about the intelligence with the age. So you said that the peak is something around 30s, and then of course, but then what about the experience? That doesn't bring the intelligence?
No, you brought a very important point. That there is two parts to it. One is a crystallized intelligence that tend to grow. That's probably you can call wisdom or experience-based accumulation. There is something called fluid intelligence. That's more about the dynamic connectivity of the neurons. For the audience, I know you have a global audience. Some of them may not be familiar. Just give an example. Is this tiny brain has about 100 billion neurons, and they form about more than 1 trillion junctions. To give an idea, that's much more than the number of stars in the galaxy. So can you imagine our head has so many connections? And these are the one, it's dynamic. Previously, they thought you were born with a particular pathways of networks, but the more and more new research is these networks change with your experience, knowledge, and culture. Even much more interesting is language. The language you speak apparently change these networks. It's amazing. So what it means is there's a dynamic rearrangement that's happening. So now this fluid intelligence is a lot about that dynamic reconfiguration of neural networks. But I'm now beginning to see neural networks alone is not going to be we should be after, because somebody was telling me that, let's say there is inbuilt intelligence even if there is no neuron. So the cell, each cell is in our body not the neural cells, the normal cells, they also know how to replicate themselves. So, but there is no neuron there. It could be other cells. So that means there is some level of memory intelligence. You could call it a rudimentary. It's there. So now we need to talk about intelligence more than nervous system. So probably we had to add the whole endocrine system, immune system together. So then the question is, your question is with age, is this the downhill for people after 35? Well, it is not so. In fact, that is a normal trend. You do nothing with the brain. But if you keep it active and keep attending webinars organized by Professor Dr. Chandra, I think that's it, right? And then you listen to all the speakers, the brain is already active. So I think it's a question of what do we do with it. If we can figure out a way of constantly nourishing it, and I showed one nice image where I put there lots of bubbles with lots of details. Actually, that's plenty of ways one could sustain the intelligence. Yeah, I use this slide is mainly because I always attend all these webinars I attended by young people like 20 to 30. I just want to tell them, guys, this is the best time. Don't waste time at all.
So
It's the best time to work hard.
So there is a question also, why there is a decline in the intelligence with age? With accumulative experience, human tends to improve their intelligence in some aspect like self-awareness, emotional knowledge.
Well, ask him if the person is in front of him. I'll ask him if he has seen any dementia patient, Alzheimer patient. It's very clear, right? They would not be the same level of him. So that means there is a decline of cognitive ability. So we should not confuse that with experience-based expert knowledge. For example, Singapore, if I've been living here for so many years now, right? Probably even if I have a bit of declined cognitive mindset, I still know where to go, how to go. I don't know I would definitely know which is the best coffee shop. Yeah. So should you come here, I know which shop to take you. So that is more strong memory-based, which goes into our what they call subconscious mind or subconscious brain. So that definitely helps in leveraging our ability. But there is something else, is dynamic intelligence. That depends on the healthiness of the neuronal connections. What I was told, with aging, these connections are getting modulated. So in a way, they are impairing your cognitive processes. So it's more in terms of understanding. There are complex mechanisms involved. In some sense, what you're saying is correct. The questioner, the way you asked is, you are right. Obviously, the people with the age and experience seems to have a good knowledge or intelligence, but that's more about the wisdom and knowing the knowledge-based, experience-based knowledge. The other one is more about the fast way of thinking. I'm very sure if you ask the same question, Nisha, if she had actually studied all this, she would answer even faster than me. Right, Nisa? Yes, she agreed.
So, to take the discussion forward, Professor Ramakrishna, I have a couple of queries. Let's say, so what do you think? What is your opinion about replacing the artificial intelligence with respect to this human intelligence? What do you think? Can we really go for that extent?
Well, I spoke to the best experts at Carnegie Mellon University about 2 years ago, before I put that slide, because I want to be very sure, because the Sophia robot is quite a very popular robot worldwide. People have seen it in action. So I took that picture, and then I was also impressed with the Sophia robot that was taken 2 years ago. And then after that, I had a chance to attend the AI conferences. So I asked the experts. So there is a variation. Most of them say current robots are nowhere close to the human intelligence, nowhere. But if you say the human have thoughts, emotions, decision process, if you amalgamate all of them, to integrate them together, I kind of feel they are able to match up to 10 to 20% of the human AI, human intelligence. But moving forward, are they able to match or surpass human level? I think in certain aspects, probably they would. For example, computing large numbers. If our brain can compute so many in a particular second, they probably can do that even faster. Then they have a self-learning, machine learning. These are algorithms built in, and they are able to self-learn quickly. So am I scaring all of the people saying, oh, eventually we will be overtaken by these machines? I don't think so. I actually think humans are much more smarter. And they even though all the Hollywood movies show that they're going to take over, that's something people want to see, or at least feel like a fantasy. My view is it's a long way off. Definitely not 2050, not even 2100. The humanity will still be prevailing. Yes. So your point would be, if you say the AI and the human intelligence, how do I stack them? Human intelligence is a much more multidimensional.
Yeah. So last follow-up question on this. So when you see, of course, there is an aging effect we are talking about, and that's related to your intelligence. Is there any self-healing mechanism?
Sorry, the question?
Is there any self-healing mechanism?
Yeah, for the intelligence?
Yes.
Yes, there is something called neuroplasticity. So they say that even though, okay, maybe, can I show my slide?
Sure, yeah.
If I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll just pull that slide and then do the slide share.
So all this yoga and all that helps in the self-healing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely think so. Okay, so let's see. They may be wondering, is it a nanofiber seminar or the yoga seminar now? Yes, right. Okay, guys, let's look at this one. So essentially, thoughts and emotions, and you look at sensory inputs, that is basically all your 5 senses. So constantly the eyes, skin, smell, ears, everything. They're constantly inputting inputs to your brain. And then there is genetics, like whom you're born to, and the biochemistry and the age. Then your physical and mental health, like social isolation, definitely is affecting people. And then physical issues. Then there's the other one is lifestyle and diet. This is where India is doing very well. I think the traditional Indian diet is extremely nutritious and for the well-being of the physical body as well as the mind, absolutely no doubt. And in fact, there are a lot of people trying to understand the rich diet, which is plant-based diet India traditionally has. That seems to have an important role on the way the brain and mind works. And then there is something called subconscious mind. This is where you are storing lots of them from your language you learn, the learnings you have from your childhood, the culture, your beliefs and experience is a huge. So you have this whole repository of database in your own head. So then you have a conscious memory, which is an active memory. Then you have imaginations and dreams. All these things are not static at all. They're dynamic. So as these guys are dynamic, that means the neuronal networks are constantly getting not totally rewired, but they are modifying. And the scientific evidence says if you can practice, you can actually train these networks to your advantage. Something like habit. For example, somebody is a chain smoker, they give up smoking and they pick up something else, they're shifting their attitude. Similarly, somebody likes, like Nisa making carbon fibers, if I can convince her biology is good, she may change to biology, right? So what that means? It's basically retraining these habitual processes. They call choose to change your mind. So yes, I think, but I don't want to stretch here too much and say everything is possible. No, all I'm saying is If you think it is not possible to change, answer is no, it is possible to change. But you say, I change 100%, I don't know. It's like somebody challenges me here, can you be totally like Dr. Chandra's brain? Probably not. It's difficult, right? And of course, he doesn't want that also. So,
Right.
and then I used to, in my lectures, I used to say if there is a head transplantation, would there be any real change? Is that going to be? But now I understood a little more, is head is only a part of our total intelligence and memory. Apparently, is a lot more systems in our body is also playing a role. So while I gave the long answer, direct answer, the question is, can we consider that these neuronal pathways, can they be rewired? Answer is yes. And can they be adjusted? Yes, it can be done. Yeah, but it requires a lot of practice. And some people go for the medication, some people go for certain medical treatments. The others choose meditation, changing the lifestyle.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is a follow-up question from Mr. Alok. Yes, is it possible to apply non-invasive electrospun fibers for capturing EEG signals? And how difficult it will be, since noise will be a major issue?
Yeah, yes, it is a problem because right now the current EEG instruments are much better, and we have been thinking about it. We still haven't got a good way how to do it. You're right, the noise to signal issue is there, but I encourage you to do this. If you can come up with a wearable cap, and which is completely textile, even whether you use electrospinning or not. But if you are able to make those caps other than the standard sensors, I'm very sure you would be able to make it much more sensitive, also much more comfortable to wear. More than that, you can now think of reversing it to modulate the brain waves. We have alpha, beta, gamma, delta waves in our brains. And if there is a way you can actually externally modulate them, I think you are already helping certain people with certain mental difficulties or challenges. Of course, they're not going to be as effective as invasive, because invasive are directly going to the target tissue or the specific region of the brain. But in this case, even though you're not approaching directly into the inside invasively, non-invasively also, you should be able to address some of them. So I've seen some papers published in Nature and Science where there are professors in Canada. They now say they tried on their students, agreed students, and after that they became more creative. Then I'm thinking, wow, that's very good.
So thank you so much, sir, for your kind replies to the questions. So in the end, on the behalf of Carbon Lab, I wish to thank all the distinguished speakers, Professor Seeram Ramakrishna, Dr. Nisa Salim, for sparing their precious time to share their research ideas. We believe that all the Carbon Lab members, alumni, and other viewers on YouTube found it very useful and may get some new insights in their areas. For more information to our viewers, we will meet again at the same platform next month on 13th February 2021 with yet another exciting webinar on research development related to the electrochemical sensors. So see you there.
Okay, bye-bye.
So
Thank you.
last but not the least, as a part of the 10th year celebration, we are excited to announce an international SciAT competition being organized by Carbon Lab along with the Indian National Young Academy of Sciences, INYAS, with the support of National Young Academies of Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and Thailand. SciAT Image Competition is an effort to encourage creativity among young researchers to present their scientific findings in an artistic manner for public outreach. Kindly visit INYA's webpage for more information. The entries for this competition may be submitted from January 22nd till February 5th. You can follow these discussions and the further updates on our official YouTube channel. Take care, goodbye, and stay safe.
Thanks.
All the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody's still here, so I can't go. So you stop recording or still recording?
Madhvi, you can stop the streaming.
Otherwise, you can't hold the smile that long, you know.